Hey Warriors fans, let's dive into what happened Friday night because it's a game that's going to stick in our minds for a while, but not for good reasons. Going into the matchup, I expected the Golden State Warriors to come out and dominate, showing their usual display of skill, speed, and teamwork. For the first half, it looked like that might happen. The first quarter was a little sluggish, but by the second, the Warriors were asserting themselves on both ends of the court, executing their plays, moving the ball, and getting their shots to fall. But then, something changed. What started as a display of control quickly slipped away, and it was painful to watch because this wasn't supposed to happen against a team like the Trailblazers. I mean, when you face elite teams, you can sometimes lose focus and they can make you pay, but against a squad that is clearly rebuilding and struggling to find footing, this should have been a guaranteed win, especially at home. The Warriors, at this point in the season, should be undefeated on their home court. Instead, after that game, their home record dropped to 5 wins and 1 loss, and watching that unfold, it was just disappointing, frustrating, and honestly a bit shocking. When you look at individual performances, there are positives, don't get me wrong. Steph Curry dropped 38 points, showing once again why he's one of the greatest shooters of all time. Jimmy Butler added 20 points, Moses Moody had 10, and Quentin Post chipped in 20, which isn't bad at all considering the role he's playing. These numbers indicate talent, they indicate potential, but basketball is a team sport, and on Friday, the team struggled where it mattered most, on the boards. This was not just a minor issue. Being out-rebounded 52-32 is embarrassing, especially when facing a team with size like the Trailblazers. Donovan Klingman went for 22 points and 10 rebounds, and Denny Jebby grabbed 26 points and 13 assists. These were solid individual efforts from them, but the Warriors as a unit were physically overmatched. Draymond Green, Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, Will Richard, and Moses Moody. This small ball lineup has worked before, but against a bigger, athletic team that knows how to crash the boards, it leaves you exposed. Remember the days when small ball worked for Golden State? They had Klay Thompson, Draymond orchestrating from the floor, David Lee patrolling the middle, and Andrew Bogut providing a physical presence that could challenge other big men. That formula allowed them to stretch defenses and dominate even bigger opponents. Now, though, the landscape is different. This current team doesn't have the same shooting depth or interior presence to make that strategy effective consistently. You can have sharpshooters, you can have speed, but if your lineup is consistently being out-rebounded by 20 rebounds in a game, you should win comfortably. It highlights a structural problem that can't be ignored. The first home loss to a team missing its star players, dealing with a new coaching situation, and navigating organizational turmoil shouldn't have happened. It's one of those games that sticks out, not because of brilliance, but because it exposed weaknesses in a way that could have long-term consequences if unaddressed. Looking forward, the Warriors have a chance to bounce back against the Jazz, and while that matchup doesn't carry the same red flag as Friday's game, it still requires focus. The Jazz, though not as threatening on paper, have enough size and individual talent to challenge Golden State if the Warriors repeat the mistakes of the last game. Their roster has some capable bigs and scorers who can make life difficult, especially if the Warriors continue to rely on the same small ball rotations without adjustment. This is where experience and smart rotation decisions come into play. The Warriors are facing a point in the season where every game matters, not just for wins and losses, but for confidence, cohesion, and identifying what lineup combinations work best in high-pressure situations. Dropping games against lower-tier teams or struggling against size exposes questions about sustainability. One of the most critical points here is about roster construction and how it impacts the team's ceiling. Golden State has talent, no doubt about it, but if they want to remain competitive and avoid being a lottery-bound team, changes are necessary. Small ball can only take you so far without consistent shooting and a dependable presence in the paint. The Warriors' front office faces decisions about who fits this team, who can contribute in a meaningful way, and who may be better leveraged in a trade scenario to strengthen areas of weakness. Right now, consistency is key. Players like Quentin Post, who can provide size and rebounding, need more minutes if the Warriors are going to survive physically dominant opponents. Beyond that, Evaluating where to make moves, whether by adding shooting, reinforcing the front court, or adjusting rotations, would determine whether this team is positioned to compete at the highest level or if they slide into mediocrity despite the presence of stars. The other layer here is maturity versus potential. Draft picks and young prospects can have talent, but until they demonstrate consistency and an understanding of the professional game, relying on them as solutions is risky. Warriors veterans like Steph Curry and Klay Thompson brought not only skill, but also basketball IQ, experience, and maturity that allowed them to navigate challenging moments without collapsing. The team's current blend of youth and veterans requires careful management. Moving forward, it's about filling the gaps that show up when pressure mounts, particularly in rebounding, defensive presence, and sustaining momentum for all 48 minutes. Without addressing these gaps, Golden State risks replicating scenarios like Friday night repeatedly, leaving fans frustrated and the team underperforming relative to its potential. So, when you break it all down, Friday's game serves as both a warning and a lesson. The Warriors cannot afford to underestimate opponents, rely solely on past formulas, or ignore areas where their roster is thin. This season, every game is an opportunity to reinforce strengths and address weaknesses, and the front office must take a proactive approach. Whether it's adjusting lineups, giving more minutes to big men, or considering roster moves, there's work to do. The window for Golden State remains open, but only if they recognize the red flags early and act decisively. The rebounding issue is not a minor oversight. It's a glaring vulnerability that demands attention. If left uncorrected, it threatens the team's ability to compete in meaningful games, influence playoff seeding, and ultimately contend for a championship. Experience, maturity, and roster depth are the pillars that will decide whether the Warriors navigate this season successfully or fall short of expectations despite having elite talent on their side. Moving on from the rebounding struggles, another area that needs serious attention is consistency in scoring. Steph Curry continues to deliver in bursts, lighting up the scoreboard with spectacular shooting nights. But basketball isn't won on individual performances alone. When you have games like Friday's, where Curry puts up 38 points, Jimmy Butler contributes 20, and Moses Moody has moments of brilliance, it highlights the contrast between individual talent and team execution. If one player is forced to carry the load for an entire game, it exposes vulnerabilities in rotations, bench production, and offensive balance. Golden State's depth is there on paper, but on nights like these, it feels like it isn't translating into real impact. Every possession matters, and if your supporting cast isn't fully engaged or capable of sustaining pressure, teams that are less talented but physically disciplined, like the Trailblazers in this instance, can exploit those gaps. That has to be addressed immediately because going forward, the Warriors cannot rely solely on flashes of genius from their stars. They need cohesion, they need consistency, and they need a blueprint that works against every type of opponent. Defense is another critical concern. While Golden State has moments of brilliance on that end, Friday's game showed that small ball can leave the team exposed in multiple ways. The Trailblazers were able to dominate inside, create second-chance opportunities, and force the Warriors into situations where they were scrambling rather than dictating the pace. Draymond Green still brings his defensive IQ to the table, but he cannot cover the gaps of multiple mismatches at once. If the Warriors are going to continue experimenting with lineups that lack size, they need to have schemes in place to mitigate these matchups. And right now, it looks like the balance between speed, shooting, and defensive presence is off. Teams like Golden State built their legacy on outpacing opponents, spacing the floor, and executing precision defense to complement their offense. When one aspect falls apart, it's a domino effect that shows up in the final score, and that is exactly what happened against the Trailblazers. In terms of offensive strategy, spacing is crucial, but so is the ability to adapt mid-game. Friday's matchup demonstrated that when the Warriors fall behind, their adjustments were slow to come. Part of that comes down to communication. Part of it comes down to knowing who can step up in high-pressure moments. And part of it comes down to trusting lineups that are effective on both ends of the floor. Steph and Klay are still elite shooters, but relying on them to carry the team while the big men struggle to control the paint is a recipe for inconsistency. It's not just about putting points on the board. It's about controlling tempo, managing possessions, and ensuring that opponents cannot capitalize on physical mismatches. This is where experience and basketball intelligence matter most. Young players can have all the talent in the world, but if they don't understand positioning, spacing, and timing, the team suffers. Golden State's coaching staff must recognize which players contribute reliably in these areas and adjust rotations accordingly, giving more time to those who can handle both ends of the floor under pressure. Speaking of rotations, the issue of minutes for big men is critical. Quentin Post, at only 17 minutes per game, isn't receiving enough court time to influence rebounding and interior defense significantly. When you have opponents like Donovan Klingman or Robert Williams, who are not only skilled but also physically imposing, limiting minutes for your tallest players undermines the team's overall strategy. Draymond Green can compensate to an extent with his versatility, but relying on him and small ball lineups against bigger teams repeatedly will continue to expose Golden State's weaknesses. Part of the solution is balancing the need for shooting with the necessity of physical presence. Finding players who can stretch the floor while also defending the rim and controlling rebounds is essential. If that means trading, acquiring, or giving extended minutes to underutilized big men, the Warriors have to make that decision quickly because the season does not wait and mistakes compound fast. On the topic of trades and roster adjustments, there are multiple avenues the Warriors could explore to strengthen their frontcourt. Looking around the league, there are opportunities to bring in players who provide size, rebounding, and rim protection without necessarily compromising spacing or offensive flow. It's not just about star power, it's about fit. The team needs individuals who understand their roles, can execute within the system, and contribute consistently. Roster construction is about more than talent. It's about chemistry, positional balance, and reliability under pressure. Without addressing these areas, the Warriors risk sliding into a pattern of inconsistency that undermines their championship aspirations. The league is filled with talented players who might not be superstars, but can make a meaningful difference by doing the small things right every night. Those are the players who can stabilize rotations, secure rebounds, and prevent teams from dominating in areas where Golden State has been vulnerable. Another factor to consider is the broader trajectory of the season. Games like Friday's act as warning signs, not just isolated events. They highlight the need for proactive adjustments before the problems escalate. The Warriors have a window to address structural issues while remaining competitive, but that window is finite. Stars like Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green provide leadership, but their presence cannot compensate indefinitely for mismatches in size, inconsistent bench production, or tactical vulnerabilities. Front office decisions, whether in trades, acquisitions, or rotations, must prioritize long-term stability while maintaining short-term competitiveness. Each game carries weight, not only in the standings but also in maintaining confidence, rhythm, and a culture of accountability. The team cannot afford to let games slip away against lower-tier opponents without consequence because those losses accumulate, and over time, they erode both morale and positioning for the postseason. Before we continue, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any exclusive Dubs updates. Let's keep going. Whispers are circulating through the NBA world, and they're growing louder by the hour. Draymond Green, the heart and soul of the Golden State Warriors defense, may be packing his bags. For years, Green has been the emotional anchor, the fiery playmaker, and the irreplaceable glue that binds the championship core of Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and the rest. Yet behind the polished interviews and stoic locker room demeanor, sources close to the team suggest that tensions may be bubbling to a point of no return. The murmurs began quietly, with insiders hinting at differences in vision between Green and the front office. Green, known for his outspoken nature and fierce competitiveness, reportedly feels that the Warriors' current strategy does not fully capitalize on his unique skill set. While the team has thrived on ball movement, shooting, and spacing, Green's defensive versatility and playmaking have often been understated, leading some to speculate that he's seeking a role where his impact is more prominently recognized. Speculation has only intensified as trade talks are rumored to be underway. Teams that have long admired Green's intensity, especially those lacking defensive anchors or veteran leadership, are reportedly circling. The question is not just which team could absorb his sizable contract, but where a player of Green's caliber could redefine a roster's identity overnight. Some say it could be a team on the rise, hungry for a defensive stalwart and playoff-tested leader. Others whisper about a contender willing to gamble for the unpredictable spark only Green can provide. Fans and analysts alike are torn. For some, the thought of Green leaving the Bay Area seems almost unthinkable. After all, he has been synonymous with the Warriors' most successful era. Yet, in the hyper-competitive landscape of the league, loyalty often bows to opportunity, and whispers of his departure have already set off heated debates on social media, podcasts, and local sports bars alike. While nothing is confirmed, the intrigue continues to grow. Could this be the start of a seismic shakeup in the Western Conference? Or is it simply another false alarm in a league built on constant speculation? One thing is clear. Wherever Draymond Green lands, the ripple effects of his potential exit from the Warriors will be felt across the NBA. For now, fans can only watch closely, digest the rumors, and wonder if the Bay Area's fiery defensive maestro is about to trade the familiar roar of Oracle for new horizons. Stay updated exclusively with the latest Dub Nation news. Subscribe to our channel and hit the like button to keep getting daily updates on the Warriors. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. Your input is essential for the Dubs community. Stay tuned for the next video.